Hey there. So let's say that you want to create a Zap that finds an organization from one source. I chose Excel, and this is my example. So let's say that this is an organization, and you have this Excel sheet where you always put organizations. Then you have this other Excel sheet that you have people. So you put people there. So you want to create a Zap that finds those organizations from that source and finds those people from that other source. In my example, just to make things easier, I chose the same source, Excel, just like in two different sheets, just to make things easier. So then what I'm going to do is make Zapier find that organization by name in Pipedrive, and also find that person by name in Pipedrive. So if the names are the same in Pipedrive, well, Zapier will just find them. If there's nothing there, they're gonna create them. And then what I'm gonna have Zapier do is once they're found, just make them be connected. So make that person be connected to the organization. And I'm doing that through this webhook action. So basically, what that is, in essence, is an API request. Most specifically, update a person. Um, so it's basically just this endpoint here. So you just have to put the ID of the organization here, and then they're gonna be hooked. So from Zapier's point of view, how that looks like is like this. Well, basically, you choose webhooks by Zapier, then custom request, then edit template, and here's where it gets kind of tricky. If you're not so used to API like myself, but basically just search for this same endpoint and borrow all the information from there. So you go update a person. It's a put type of request or method. Yeah, put method. Then in the URL, you're gonna put the URL from the request. So once you send this request, you go here, you test endpoint, you're gonna get this URL. So you copy the same URL, and you see that here it's gonna put the ID of this organization you tested it with. So what we want to do in Zapier is that we kind of erase that ID from there because that's one unique ID, and we kind of put the ID from the step where you're finding the person, right? So yeah, basically you erase that spot there, then you click here in order to find the ID. So you go on this side and just click here. So find that ID. So every time this Zap goes on, it's always going to take the ID from step 4. So it's always going to be a new ID, right? And then here in the data, you're just going to copy this as it is. So you're going to change the org ID to be the ID of step 2. So step 2 is find or create organization. So if that organization exists, it's going to take the ID from that organization. Then here, the headers, I guess they have to be just the same as the response. So content type, application, JSON. So you test this, right? This endpoint. You click on test endpoint, and then you're going to get this response, and you just copy these onto this part. Then you continue. So basically, these are my two guys that I already had, and they're not connected, right? They're not connected. So I'm going to retest this webhook, create and continue, your custom request. So they should be connected now, and that's pretty much what happened. They're connected now. So yeah, in essence, you don't. This is probably not what you're doing. You probably have other sources. You probably have other ways to kind of find these organizations and people. But essentially, what's important here is to use the find or create organization um, search, and then the find or create person search, and then ultimately combine that using this custom request by Zapier, Webhook. So yeah, this is the most important part of them all. And this is basically the same as this endpoint here. So you can test things out with this update a person endpoint and see how it works with the webhook. And just a note, this doesn't work the other way around if you're looking at things through the update and organization point of view, because you can't add people via the API to an organization apparently, but you can do it the other way around. So person to organization. I mean, it's perfectly possible. So that's one way to do things.